hit like, and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Good morning, Egaro family. We are back. It is Saturday. It's 11 o'clock on the dot, and that means that we are back, and I'm excited. I am April R. Silver, your host of Ascending. Welcome back to those who've been with us before. If you're new, welcome, welcome. Go ahead and use this time to let people know that we are live, we are here, and tell people that Ascending is a new channel. Yes. A new show. Yes. Let people know that Ascending is about topical matters, be it cultural, artistic, political, social justice, spiritual health matters that we here at Ascending with this weekly live stream show. Our job is to break to get to the root of matters, to be more specific, to get to the root, to maybe talk about some things that on certain topics that are not readily talked about. But that's our job, right? And so we get to the root so that we can ascend, so that we can break ground. So I'm gonna tell you who our guest is for the day, but it's not the official introduction. Go ahead and let your people know that the mayor of the city of Newark, Raj J. Baraka, is in the building, figuratively. We're going to bring him on in a second, but we want you to know that this conversation is going to be what you would expect from someone whose last name is Baraka. The mayor is going to be talking to us about politics, yes. What's going on in the beloved city of Newark, yes. The mayor is going to talk with us about, and I'll be asking questions about arts and activism because, you know, I sit at the intersection of arts and activism and have for decades, all of my adult life. So we're going to talk about that as well. And we're going to talk about why he decided to run to be the governor of the state of New Jersey. So we will be talking about all of that. So go ahead, let your people know, tell people we live. We're going to be here for a solid moment. Go ahead and tell us where you're from in the comments, all of that good stuff. So let me introduce my brother, Raj J. Baraka, who is the 40th mayor of the city of Newark, a native of the city of Newark, a, from a family who has been embedded and from the city of Newark for nearly 100 years. He is a former educator, a former teacher, a former principal in the city of Newark, former elected official in terms of city council, and now he's the mayor. Since 2014, he's been serving and been doing groundbreaking work there, of which we are grateful. So I know him first as a fellow Howard student when we entered Howard in the same year in the 80s. We did groundbreaking work there on the campus on the campus of Howard, yes, and in the city of Newark. We actually even made some international news based on based on our activism, our student activism. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. If you want to get more deeply, you can check out the Book of Baraka, which is on Audible right now. You can download his memoir. Shout out to Jelani Cobb, another Howardite. So all of those things we're going to touch on just a little bit. So at this moment, I would like for my team to bring on so we can have this amazing conversation, Mayor Raj J. Baraka. There you are.
Yeah,
My brother, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Of all the people who are busy in the world and in the city of Newark, it's you. You're running for governor. You got a lot of stuff on your plate. So we're very appreciative of your time, definitely. And I'll say this, my brother, you always show up. You know what I mean? I don't know that there's a time when I've asked you for support or to do something or whatever, and you haven't showed up. So for that, I'm grateful. So I want this to be what you need it to be. And so we're going to talk about all of the politics. But one of the things I wanted to start off with, Mayor Baraka, because we get to the root of things here, right? That's what we do on this show, this new show. We know your father, our great mentor, our great leader. May he rest in peace always. As a matter of fact, if the audience looks over my left shoulder, um, Harriet Tubman and your father are on my wall, right? Um, so and there's a long history there that we appreciate. We'll talk about in a minute. I want you to talk about, if you would, please, the impact of your mother, Amina Baraka, in your life. You've talked about it before. I want you to elaborate a little because I know when I met your mother, it was always at the kitchen table, right? There at the family home. And the way that she poured into me and my sisters and brothers when we would, come doing whatever we were doing when we were students at Howard, the insight, the wisdom, and the fire that she always carries with her. There are conversations that I remember almost 40 years later from your mother, an amazing human being. So can we, since we're getting to the root, can you talk about a little bit about Amina Baraka?
Yeah, sure. My mother's an artist, a dancer by trade, an actress. She met my father in the middle of that in the Black Arts Movement. They got married. My mother was a organizer of the African preschool here in the city of Newark. Before there was all of these schools, Watoto Shule, Ujima Shule, all of that stuff. She organized African free school. Most of the songs that people sing during Kwanzaa, my mother and her group, they came up with a lot of those songs. So she was an early pioneer in most of the cultural nationalist stuff. And then she began to change her ideology, elevate her ideology, and it affected my father, it affected everybody else. People usually think it was the other way around, but it was, mostly my mother and her pushing to understand, and her empathy with people all over the world, which, pushed people to begin to look at other oppressed people, particularly Africa, Europe, or in other parts of the world, Latin America. And that's who she is. She's always been a people person, always been a community person. Um, and it's been really the emotional and spiritual backbone of our family here in Newark. And everybody in this community, they know my mother. They know her voice and who she is and her impact. So she's had a huge impact on me, on my brothers and sisters, but also on the folks in Newark, whether they know it or not. Yeah.
For sure. I remember the many times that we would travel from DC at Howard University coming to Newark, or if we were going to New York and we stopped at the family home, the kitchen table conversations. The one thing, if I had to like put in a sentence or phrase about Amina Baraka, is her obsession with the truth. You know what I mean, about telling the truth and being real and casting away delusions and just being honest, and she would push us in our conversation, push us in our the way that we would critically analyze a thing or a person or whatever, and she was always about getting to the truth. That's one thing that has endured in my memory and guides me in terms of just not playing games with people.
Yeah, she used to say all the time, no investigation, no right to speak. That was her phrase. I forgot where it originally came from, but she would say that all the time to me, to everybody else, no investigation, no right to speak. Basically saying that you have to know what you're talking about, you have to study, you have to read in order for you to, because a lot of people talk. And today, boy, this is like more prevalent than any other time. Like people are just, because of social media and, you get to say what you want to say, make up stuff. And, my mother would say, no investigation, no right to speak, which always made me feel like I had to be prepared for the conversations that I'm in, or the things that I'm saying. I have to at least have studied, which we took to the work that we did, around the organization we were in, Black Name Force, the Friday, the studying. We spent a lot of time studying, and that was important.
Yeah, it's and she held true to that, and she bought it with fire, and you knew it was love. But it was the earnest and the consistency, may I say, the consistency that was embedded in her, stood out for sure. So I wanted to make sure that that this audience, which is worldwide, we know that at the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, the audience is worldwide. So I wanted to highlight that. It's been highlighted before for sure, but I wanted to highlight that with you. So let's journey a little bit, if we can, to the years that you just talked about when you referenced Black Neoforce, right? The organization that you founded on campus, and I have become the after you, I had become the executive minister of that organization. We were young. We were on purpose, you know, for sure. But let me tell this story about one of the first ways that I saw you was with Sister Soldier and Dougie Fresh, the Get Busy tour, I think it was.
Yeah.
I was uh, I was in the audience and I was just electrified by your speaking and Sister Soldier. Shout out to my dear sister, Sister Soldier. Um, but one of the other things that was happening with the organization, Black Neoforce, was this riff that the organization had with Alpha Phi Alpha, right? Now that stood out to me because I was an Alpha sweetheart. And I
Yeah.
stand by the work that we did at Howard in the late 80s because
Yeah.
it was the Alpha Sweetheart Court at Beta Chapter that brought in Sonia Sanchez on a regular basis. I got receipts, I got the flyers. It was the Alpha Sweetheart Court that held the bros accountable. And some of us didn't want to pledge a sorority, right? Some of us wanted to find service and be in alignment with those who were. Some of us did want to pledge. I wasn't one of them, but it was the Alpha Sweetheart Court that did all of this community service when everybody thought we was just going around hoeing with the bros. That wasn't true of the court that I presided over. So it stood out to me that there was this rift between this new radical organization, Black Neoforce, and the Alphas. And
Yeah.
it was around auction. It was around the question, why would this Black Greek letter organization have an auction for a fundraiser? Right?
Right.
You remember that, yeah? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Fast forward 30 something years, and that exchange was led by you. 30 something years fast forward, you are, as we can see, um, Alpha Phi Alpha. So talk about that progression,
Yeah.
that progression.
Yeah. They was wrong for doing that then, and they would be wrong today. Today.
Bottom line, right?
That was dead wrong. We got all kind of people in these organizations. A lot of folks. I was 17, 18. I was 17 years old when I went to Howard University. Like when you put it in perspective, I was a kid. I was 17. I was 18, years old. In the middle of most of that stuff, I was just 18, turning 19. Like I was a little kid, and trying to figure out myself and where I was going and what was happening, and pretending that I knew more than I actually knew. But at the end of the day, even now, like Alpha Phi Alpha, when we were on campus, we had this black we had a Black History Month kind of thing where we had to get on this panel and find out who knew the most Black history. And me and Jelani was on there and somebody else, and we killed the Alphas because we knew more Black history than they did. They were supposed to know Black history, but they didn't know we studied it every Friday. So, but the interesting thing is when I go back to Howard for homecoming and things like that, those guys from that time embraced me. When I came back to Newark, obviously the Alphas in Newark, Alpha Alpha Lambda chapter is like over 100 of those guys strong. They do incredible work in the city. A lot of mentorship in the high schools and the elementary schools, trying to build an Alpha house, working hard. Martin Luther King oratory, doing a lot of work in the community. It's you can't doubt it. And a lot of the guys that are in the organization, in the fraternity, are very serious, people, that are around me, with my corporation counsel, my business administrator, all these folks. There are a lot of people that I respect that are now, and we began having conversations about the history of the organization, which I really didn't take seriously when I was 18, and they knew that. I said, look, when I was 18, I wouldn't have been in none of that, and I was just too rebellious. And we would study in the history of the organization, and we talked about Paul Robeson and W.E.B. Du Bois and Martin Luther King and Charles Hamilton Houston. And, I mean, it had to be something that was okay if Du Bois and Robeson was, I mean, Du Bois became an alpha right after the Niagara movement, and from that formed the NAACP. I mean, these guys were serious people, and Paul Robeson, who people know me, know I love completely and totally, and to find out he was Alpha Phi Alpha, moved me, honestly. And I was like, wow, a lot of people we were studying in college that I looked up to, that we talked about their, ideology and dialogue. We always quote the double consciousness that Du Bois talked about all the time. That these people were alphas, and they were struggling at that time to make America more just, more equal, more fair, more democratic, and protecting us. And so really being in that lineage to me became important as I became older, trying to make my mark on the things that are happening in this country and in this world, that I wanted to be in a line with those folks. And obviously everybody in the fraternity is not in it for those reasons, right? Which is hence why we had a auction at Howard University, right? So the good thing about it, it's a space for a lot of type A personality men to to debate and go at it at our chapter meetings, which last for hours, because you got everybody in there with the same personality thinking they're right. So we just debating and debating and debating. But it's a good place to be. It sharpens me at this age, and allows me to partner with people who are moving down the same path that I am.
I appreciate that. I want to zone in on the phrase that you said. It sharpens me, and I can't say enough about that Alpha Sweetheart Court Beta chapter 87, 88, and then into 88, 89, because some people who know my history, they think Black Neoforce, they think when we were in student government, Howard University Student Association, or HUSA, they think protests. Many
Right.
people don't know that I cut my teeth in my activism work through that particular group of women. You know what I mean? Pure service. We were the ones that were doing those programs, bringing in Sonia under the umbrella of that organization with the brothers. So talk about sharpening the tools. I definitely need to enter that into the space, because people think Black Neoforce was my entry point, and it wasn't.
Hmm.
So thank you for illuminating that journey. And shout out to all of the Alpha brothers and the Alpha sweethearts, or in some places the Alpha angels. So let's go on from there and talk about the journey. You graduated from Howard. Shout out to all HU alum. You're in Newark, continuing your work through Black Neoforce, and then going into education. Tell us what you are most proud of. You've been serving as mayor since 2014 in the city of Newark. What are you most proud of?
There's a lot of things. I mean, one, I would say the reduction of homicides by 61% is huge for me, because I grew up in a city, and a lot of my friends were victims of shootings or homicides or locked up in one or the other. So the reduction of that, saving people's lives, and moving people back into the city and citizenry, in a way that I think is productive is huge. And the creation of so many Black and brown businesses and millionaires and other folks in the city because of the work that we're doing is just awesome. To me, we're taking people's Section 8 vouchers and turning them into mortgages. So we're making homeowners. We're doing some really creative and life-changing stuff in the city that doesn't get a lot of, notoriety or praise. And that's okay. Because we are really lifting people up, and that's what we want to do. Like, so I'm proud of that work. I can walk away from here knowing that we set people on a path to transform their lives. A lot of people, and it's exciting that we're able to do some of the things that we've done.
I've worked on a couple of your campaigns, not deep rooted like crazy, like how so many people have dedicated not to you, but to the work, to you and to the work. So I've been in Newark knocking on doors, right? From when you first ran and in all of the different campaigns. I have it and shout out to all of my Newark family. It's deep. And Newark has this, like you said, when people doubted the people. And your victory, the first time you won in 2014 was a phenomena. Talk about what is this grit that Newark has that always breaks through despite the negativity, the doubt, the underdog status, in the shadows, some people say, which I don't, but some people like talk about that. What's the source of that, please?
Well, I think the folks in Newark understand that people always count them out, disregard them, and that creates this kind of insular kind of feeling that people have. The unity with one another, the determination to win despite all odds, type of thing. People always have something negative to say or look down on the folks in our city and the things that have been going on here for years. And us having a breakthrough, right? People doubted that we would be able to win because I was like, I'm the first, right? So everybody else,
Say it again. You're the first what? Say it again. You broke out.
mayor of the city that's actually from Newark.
Yes.
Like everybody else, came here from somewhere else. I mean, I'm from Sharp James and Curry Booker. Like, I was born here in this city. So, I mean, that has an impact. People, knew me when I was a child. They knew me as a baby. They knew me coming through the city, good and bad. And, people doubt that. They doubt that when you win, because you're from Newark, you'll be able to have the impact that you need to have. The business community doubted, the electoral or the politicals, I would say, in the city and the state, doubted we'll be able to do things, especially we walked in with a $93 million deficit. They just thought everything was going to, be downhill from there, but they were wrong, by God's grace and the work that we did collectively. We just hung in there and fought. And, the results turned out to be good for us. So and based on those results, I get an opportunity to throw my hat in the governor's race, because if it was terrible, I wouldn't even be able to be in this race.
Right. I want to go switch to that topic, but I want to say first the theme, refresh my memory. Believe in Newark, right?
Right.
In the beginning. Believe in Newark, because one of the things I remember in being in some of those meetings, this idea that Newark didn't have enough. The people weren't going to be educated enough, weren't going to be savvy enough, weren't going to be connected enough to run the city.
Right.
And I know that that's part of what that theme was birthed from. Believe in Newark, believe in oneself, or whatever. And then everybody rose to the occasion. Yep. Not by surprise to you, I'm sure, and to the people there, but to others. The way that the landslide that was just by pure grit. Talk about the Believe in Newark, and then I want to go, because we want to talk about the state of New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change. This idea that we can't win, that somebody has to come in and govern for us, like this colonial mentality. Like we had this, colonial and neo-colonial mentality that felt like somebody had to tell us what to do, how to govern. They had to educate us, teach us, lift us up. That we weren't.
And a lot of people were coming in from New York, right? Like that was the thing. The consultants were coming. Everybody was coming from New York, as though there was from all over the place. Yeah.
Basically making decisions about how we should move forward. The state controlled our schools, everything. It was this idea that we couldn't do this on our own. We didn't have the gravitas, the intelligence, the wherewithal. And so this whole concept of Believe in Newark really give people the hope and self-esteem to throw off the yoke of other folks and say, we can do this on our own, that our own children can run our city. They were born and raised here, went to school here, we nurtured them, they can run it. And that's exactly what that was about. And it resonated with people.
And when you became Newark, we became Newark, right? I mean, when you became the mayor, I still have my "I am the mayor" T-shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was phenomenal. So then let's use that as a foundation to step into the governor's race. Talk to us about that. Why you dare? Why do you dare?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I just think the time is right. History demands it. You know, I would be the first African American governor the state has ever seen, the fourth in the history of the nation, the second in modern times. Right now, and it would be me and Westmore. If we would have a African American Governors Association, there'd be two of us in the association. You just have to go to Sylvia's a Sunday brunch in New York and Harlem and just break bread. But I mean, it's just a sad commentary on this country, and you know, we're in a crisis. Like, you can see what's happening nationally. It's like shock and awe. It's like madness is happening, and that has permeated in all of these states, and it's permeated in New Jersey. And look, we've been doing everything we can to get people elected, to do harm reduction. We elect people that are going to do us the less harm or the least harm. We want to move away from that. We're tired of carrying other people's water. We want to build a broad-based coalition. We just want to lead it. People say, "Oh, we need a broad-based coalition." Yeah, we know about that. We've been helping with broad-based coalitions, except that we've been the ones cooking the food, knocking on the doors, going to get the votes, giving speeches for other folks. We want to be a part of a broad-based coalition. We just want to be in charge of it. That's it. Like, I mean, at the end, all of the problems that we have in Newark are statewide problems, and we're counting on other people to find solutions to problems that they don't see because they don't see us.
Mm,
Right? They see individuals, but they don't see us as a collective. And
right.
because they don't see us as a collective, they can't solve our problems. And that's, you know, a multitude of people who fit in that, you know. And so it's time for us to rise up and do what we normally do, right? And lead. Or else, you know, following people that are afraid to go to the door and kick it in.
Let's talk about what is now with this Trump administration. Newark has been in the news for these policies that are coming down, the evil policies that exist. Tell us about the state of that from your seat as the mayor, and then what you forecast. Because the election for governor, let's be clear, is in November 2025. So everybody mark that. But talk about the impact of this Trump administration and what it represents.
Well, you know, it's really dangerous. I don't know if people understand how dangerous the times are that we're in. I mean, the picture of Elon Musk in the Oval Office with his son giving a speech while the president of the United States is behind the desk, docile with no comments. I've never seen that anywhere. It is a picture of capitulation. This kind of plutocracy that we have, where these billionaires have now seized power, is very dangerous. Like, they have access to our information, access to our finances, access. I mean, they just went to New York and took money out of the treasury and pulled it back for homeless shelters because they thought it was going to immigrants. They just took it back. I mean, this kind of activity. I was with the mayor of Baltimore the other day, just talking about how we have to use the courts like we did before to kind of fight back, because this is the only thing we have at our disposal. These folks talking about getting rid of the Department of Education, you know, holding funds for municipalities, for counties, for school systems that, you know, give people vaccinations, that teach people Black history. This is dangerous, dangerous times that we're living in. And the fact that they would go into that fish market in Newark and just violate everybody's Fourth Amendment rights without any remorse, and then put out a statement that said these types of things are going to happen. It's very dangerous that we allow them to roll back people's constitutional protections, and really it feels like everybody's bending the knee. So all the resources that we have in cities We hire people off of federal grants. Like we, you know, give people health care off of federal grants, with federally qualified healthcare centers. Like we give people WIC, we take care of people, we give them food and shelter and health care through these things. When this stuff goes away, not only are you like tearing the bottom out of people's lives, but you're going to create chaos and confusion and violence and emotional distress and mental instability. All of this stuff will be a result of what these guys are doing.
And it's happening now, right? It's happening now. One of the things that we talked about last week is the freak out. We had Chief Ayanda Clark on because the effect of this, the impact of this is serious on our spiritual health and on our mental health. And we talked about the freak out is not the remedy. Freaking out is not the remedy. It's understandable, but it's not the remedy. Where how do people get past this danger zone and from your point of view and grasp the remedy? And what is the remedy from your point of view?
I mean, it always been historically, man. We have people have to be organized and in an organization and fighting back. People think that you get through this time by shrinking, you know, by hiding under a table. That's not how you win. That's not how you get past this. That's how you die, right? So at the end of the day, you have to. This is a moment for leadership. This is a David moment for many people around the country. You know, to get your rock and your rag. You know, to get out here on the mountain and swing those rocks and bring giants down. You know, at the end of the day, like if you miss your David moment, you get conquered. I mean, you have to do it in a way that's comfortable to you, whether it is voting for specific people, going to local meetings, participating in rallies, whatever it is that you do to raise
reading a book to be informed,
to raise your consciousness, to help other people survive mentally and spiritually, and then get other people to resist. Like Sonia Sanchez always says, resist. And resistance comes in multiple forms, right? And nobody has a monopoly on what resistance looks like, right? So at the end of the day, resistance could be taking care of your family in a way that's in opposition to the stuff that you're talking about. Resistance could be going into your church and educating the children in the community after school about Black history as they remove it from schools, right? You know, resistance could be at the local school board meeting, at the local council meeting, voting for somebody else. Virginia and New Jersey have the first opportunity to clap back against what's happening nationally because we have the first statewide elections in the country in 2025 after Trump was elected. You know, our state legislatures, our governors, and so you get an opportunity to let the country see this is how we're going to respond. These are the policies we're going to push. Either we capitulate and tuck our tail and run, or we stand up and go in a different direction. And that's what we have to do. Like ultimately, like that's the only thing that's going to keep you moving and warm and alive.
Motion, forward motion, progress. I want to talk about. I agree with you. I want to talk about this notion, especially in the age of social media. Everybody thinks that standing up and resisting or organizing or whatever has got to look like who you just saw on IG, right? And I thank you for illuminating that resistance is your own version of what that is, as long as it's steeped in historical context and grounded in ideology that is progressive, that's going to lead us forward, right? So I thank you for illuminating that people have to go in order to pull that out to get to what that remedy is. So let's talk about art as resistance, right? Let's talk about you as a poet. Let's talk about how you have used the arts and poetry in very specifically, the value of that and how it's nourishing. Let's talk about that, please. For you.
Yeah, man, art, and we used to say, culture is a weapon. And we used to talk about that all the time. I'm talking about the reality is art is, uplifting. It is like life changing. It is a bridge, a wall, you know, spiritual and mental health. You know, it is a way to speak and communicate your sentiments, your feelings, your anger, your to yourself and to the rest of the world. You know, it is incredibly, incredibly important. It's also an economic engine too. People forget that part, but ultimately, it's incredibly important. It helps me with my own sanity. That's number one, and it keeps me grounded. It reminds me of why we're doing this anyway. My father used to tell me, "Never lose your poetry license," and you know, despite all this other stuff you're doing, don't lose your poetry license. Like, meaning, don't stop writing poetry. That you're a poet. You know, because it kind of reminds you of why you started on this pathway in the first place. Right? You sometimes I look at some old poems I wrote. I'm like, wow, you know, just the thinking of back then versus now, and I'm, you know, and it reminds me again of why I'm on this journey, but it also, you know, keeps me focused.
You know, you touch on two things I wanted to talk about. I want to dig in just a little bit deeper. This thing about training as an artist, right? I've always maintained, would love your thoughts, that there's a difference between being creative and being artistic, right? I believe that by the nature of the fact that we're breathing, we are creative. But to be an artist
Right,
requires a deeper level of training, of education, of failure, of rubbing the craft in the dirt, so to speak, so you can get that polish. And you just gave an example of that because you talked about how you just went back and you review your poetry, and your father is like, don't lose your poetry license. Can we talk about that one doesn't become a poet because one wakes up one day and has an emotional pain in their heart and they spill it out on the page and that makes them a poet? I
right,
would argue not. There's
yeah,
some training, there's some reading. So can you talk about that process if you would, please?
right. I mean, without that, you're just really undermining the whole concept of what people are doing here. Like, I mean, you have, you know, artists throughout time, you know, who have put in serious work. I mean, there's one thing that you feel something and you put it on paper and you wrote a poem. Doesn't make you a poet. You know, at the end of the day, art is the application of science, which means that you have to master, you know, something in order to be able to change it or be creative about it or do something else with it. Like, you know, in order for us to defy gravity, we have to know what it is, right? We have to be able to understand what gravity is. In order for us to manipulate the English language, we have to know how to use it, right? And so we manipulate the English language because in and of itself, it can't say what we are feeling. It is, you know, not vast enough. It is unequipped to express what it is we're thinking and feeling simultaneously. And so we have to use all kind of images and metaphors and similes and other kind of things to express what it is that we're actually really trying to say. Because you know how there's some words that don't exist in specific languages that you have to manipulate that language in order to express a point that doesn't exist in the language that you're speaking. So
And, hmm
you have to know something that you practice. You have to know the language in order to manipulate it. And that's important. My father used to say that all the time. Like, you know, he could write a loku because he know what a haiku is, right? He would write lokus. He would call them lokus because he understood what a haiku was. So he not only did he understand the science of haiku, but he understood the thinking of the haiku, what they were thinking, what was in mind when they said haiku. So he came up with another concept, right? Another a concept of loku, right?
I want to share for those who've been watching, particularly the Sonia Sanchez interview. She talked about that. You know, I had our great mother on, and she talked about that very thing. And shout out and reminder, we are going to do the Sonia Sanchez workshop. And Baraka, you know, she always sends her love.
Yeah,
But you affirmed so much what I know to be true. Um, And that's not to poo-poo the emotional feeling in one's heart. That's not to poo-poo that, right? That's not to poo-poo uh, uh, all those kinds of things. But be careful if you're going to identify and say that you're a writer, an essayist, a sculptor, or whatever, and you haven't studied the craft. So,
Well, how are you gonna be a mathematician if you don't study math? It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't
right,
make sense, right?
right, exactly. So that goes back. Let's come full circle. The impact of social media, people think that if they saw it on IG, they can be that. But here we are finding one's way that one is true to, and that path. We want that to be a takeaway. So I want to direct people to what we want, the official video. I want to direct the audience to that video because what was it, a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, that came up. I stumbled across it on YouTube. This is on YouTube, everybody. What we want, Raz Baraka, the official video. It was like smelling salt. I think for me, it came at a moment where I so needed that. So I thank you publicly. I thank you for that poetry, for the music, for the dancers, for the concepts, for the reminders. And that's what art does. Sometimes it's like a smelling salt that elevates our consciousness and reminds us, oh, this is why I'm the fuck alive. You know what I mean? Like, that was in that moment in time, that's what that was. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to, any closing, how do people find out how to support your work, this race for governor? Tell us how, and we'll close out on that. And, your closing words.
You could go to Raz for Governor, the word F4, F-O-R, razforgovernor.com, and you could, donate, volunteer, so forth and so on. But you can follow us on our pages, follow my Instagram, Facebook. My daughter Amandla is running all our social media stuff. So
Amanda.
if you could go to any of those pages and tap into anything we're doing. It is like live and direct right now. You could be a part of it. I have a forum tomorrow in Princeton. The Princeton Dems are hosting a gubernatorial forum. They call
Is
the
that
ones
the 16th, February 16th?
yeah, the ones where they don't want us to argue with each other. They call them forums, so we don't do that. So they take the word debate out, so they make us not talk about each other, or make me not talk about people. Let's make it clear. I'm gonna say something about some people. I mean,
we know you will.
yeah, I can't allow you to just get up there and say whatever you want to say that is not true. But please, we need as many people to get involved as we can. Obviously, we need to raise some money. These people, are millionaires. I mean, we're in the age now where from the song that first you get the money, then you get the power, because the millionaires are and billionaires don't want to support people for office anymore. The same thing that we should be doing. They actually want to be in the office, right?
Right.
They don't want to support people for office. They can't trust them. They want to be in it themselves. Like, so either we gonna be the person in office, or we're gonna have direct control, like what you see Elon Musk doing. Right? That's what we are. That's kind of oligarchy, with a concentration of wealth in the hands of very few people. They want to run it, not just fund it. And so on our side, we have to do the same thing. We have to want to be in it, not just support people and cross our fingers, but we have to get in the middle of it. And that's what we're doing here. And I encourage everybody to be a part of it. The last thing is, you brought up what we want. I wrote that because we're always on defense. Like, people, I was in a interview and people, they were asking me like, the same stuff these people ask for. What is it that you want? You know what I mean? And I was tempted to list all of the people that said what they wanted in the past, because the argument was we never said that. Well, that's not true. The Black Panthers had what we want and what we believe. The NOI had what we want, what we believe. Everyone has what we want. So what we want is not like foreign. You know what I'm saying? People aren't listening to it. So I said, maybe let me just reiterate it in this way. This is what we want. We want to love ourselves freely, right? That we don't want to have our books banned, right? We want to be able to feed our families and not be persecuted and all of this stuff. So I laid all of that out poetically, and hopefully they won't ask me that question no more.
You laid it out poetically, masterfully. Like I said, it was smelling salt for me. So I encourage everybody to not only just go check it out and be inspired, not just that, right? And for real, not just to believe that we can win, but we gotta match that belief, which is conceptual and intangible. We gotta match that with hardcore labor. We gotta match it with cash. This got to be a marriage between what we say, what we believe, and what we're actually doing today. You know what I mean? So I want people to contemplate that as well, so we can make things manifest. Believing is fundamental. We were taught that it's foundational, and then yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
for sure. My brother, I love you dearly. I thank you so much. We are going to. I'll check in with your people because we want to bring you into Newark. I mean, bring you to Brooklyn really, really soon so we can do a fundraiser like we've done before.
I love it. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn for Baraka. And maybe it's going to be Brooklyn and Howard for Baraka, whatever it is. But we're
Yeah,
going to bring you back.
see
So
the
we,
guys, your whole
yeah,
staff are back there, and Drake looking like somebody else. I don't know who that was, but yeah,
yeah, we're going to get Brooklyn for Baraka. We're going to get Howard alum for Baraka. We're going to do it. I'll be putting out the call. We already got the space. I didn't even tell you that. We already got the space. We just got to find the date. I'm going to catch up with you um, with Salimo and such and get those dates. But we got you. We got you. We're going to do, like we always said, we're going to do more than what we did before, right? Because we appreciate you and what you stand for. We thank you.
appreciate y'all. Take
All
care.
right, so everybody, this was episode number 5, right? We've just just started this, so stay with us on this journey. Subscribe to Marc Lamont Hill. Shout out to Mark and to Princess. Shout out to my team, Drake, Aaron, and Kevin, for leading this ascending. We would just want to remind you, you can watch this. Tell your people to watch this after the fact, right? On Marc Lamont Hill Official. The show is called Ascending. I am your host, April R. Silver. I know it doesn't say that. Yo, can we take that down? Can we take that banner down? I'm break. There we go. I'm your host, April R. Silver. We are here every Saturday at 11 live. So tell your people, subscribe, like, support the channel, support indie media. And we will see next week. Let me say this. Hold on. Next week, we're going to be talking about education, Black education, what the administration is doing with the Department of Education, or the dismantling of that. Our guest will be Dr. Kamika Royal, and soon to be Dr. Akanke Washington. So tune up for that. In the meantime, stay up.